Ever wondered how the post-truth era has reshaped our perception of reality? Do you realize the impact of fake news on the decisions you make every day? We live in a time where our screens are filled with news, ideas, and information, but how much of it is true and how much is carefully curated fiction? This is the dawn of the post-truth era, a time in history when objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. So what is post-truth? In simple terms, it's a cultural and political phenomenon where truth and facts take a backseat to emotional narratives and personal beliefs. It's a world where what you feel is often considered more valid than what the facts say. The post-truth era didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's the result of a complex interplay of societal, political, and technological changes. The rise of social media, the explosion of information, and the increasing polarization of society have all played a part in ushering in this era. But let's not forget the role that fake news plays in all of this. Fake news, or false information presented as news, is the fuel that powers the post-truth era. It's everywhere, from the most obscure corners of the internet to the headlines of mainstream media, and it's not just harmless fiction. Fake news can shape public opinion, influence elections, and even incite violence. Social media platforms, with their ability to reach millions in seconds, have become the perfect breeding ground for fake news. These platforms allow misinformation to spread like wildfire, reaching far and wide before anyone has a chance to debunk it. The impact of fake news on society is far-reaching. It erodes trust in institutions, creates divisions among communities, and undermines democracy itself. It's not just about being misled or misinformed, it's about the very fabric of our society being torn apart by falsehoods and deceit. Misinformation, like a virus, has permeated our lives, and it's high time we built our immunity against it. Scene script. Are you aware of the misinformation crisis we're living through? Do you comprehend its gravity? The misinformation crisis is a modern plague, a maelstrom of false narratives and deceptive content that twists public opinion, undermines democratic processes, and fuels social unrest. It's not just about a few misleading memes or sensational headlines. It's an insidious, pervasive problem that's shaking the very foundations of our society. Imagine a world where truth is subjective, where facts are malleable, and where your understanding of reality is constantly manipulated. Now realize that this isn't some dystopian fiction. It's the world we live in today. It's a world where misinformation campaigns can sway elections, incite violence, and even jeopardize public health. Take, for instance, the case of climate change. Despite overwhelming scientific consensus, there's a persistent narrative fueled by misinformation. The climate change is a hoax. This misinformation undermines global efforts to combat this existential threat, and it's not an isolated incident. There's also the issue of political misinformation. We've seen how false narratives can influence election outcomes, fuel conspiracy theories, and create deep societal divides. These aren't just abstract concepts, they're real problems that affect real people. But perhaps one of the most alarming examples of the misinformation crisis is the spread of health-related falsehoods. In the midst of a global pandemic, misinformation about vaccines, treatments, and the severity of the virus itself has proliferated. This not only sows doubt and fear, but also puts lives at risk. The misinformation crisis is like a hydra. For every lie debunked, two more seem to spring up. It's a beast that thrives in the digital age, feasting on our biases, fears, and divisions. But here's the thing, every beast has its weakness, and in the case of the misinformation crisis, that weakness is critical media literacy. The misinformation crisis is a beast, but every beast has its weakness. In this case, it's critical media literacy. Scene script. Have you heard of critical media literacy? It's our most potent weapon in the fight against misinformation. Let's delve into what critical media literacy is. Imagine it as a set of spectacles, ones that enable us to see beyond the surface of media messages. It's the ability to decode, deconstruct, and critically examine the underlying meanings that are embedded within these messages. Critical media literacy doesn't just stop at understanding what's being presented, but also questions why it's presented in a certain way and who benefits from it. Now, why is this so crucial in our post-truth era? Well, in a world where information is at our fingertips, it's also become easier for misinformation to spread like wildfire. We're constantly bombarded with images, texts, sound bites, and videos, each carrying its own version of truth. This is where critical media literacy swoops in to save the day. This skill enables us to not just take media messages at face value, but to interrogate them, analyze them, and evaluate them. It empowers us to spot biases, identify propaganda, recognize stereotypes, and discern between facts and opinions. It allows us to be active consumers of media rather than passive recipients. Moreover, critical media literacy isn't just about consumption, it's also about creation. It equips us with the tools to create our own media messages in a responsible, ethical, and informed way. This is particularly important in our current digital age, where anyone with a smartphone can be a media producer. So in essence, critical media literacy is about developing a more nuanced understanding of the media landscape around us. It's about fostering a critical awareness that enables us to navigate the murky waters of misinformation, fake news, and propaganda. It's about gaining the ability to use media to promote dialogue, democratic participation, and social change. Critical media literacy isn't just a skill, it's a necessity in our post-truth era. Why is critical media literacy so important? How does it empower us in a world of misinformation? Critical media literacy isn't just a beneficial skill, it's a necessity in our post-truth era. With an information landscape that's often littered with falsehoods, we need to be discerning consumers of media. It's the antidote to the misinformation crisis, enabling us to sift through the noise, distinguish facts from fiction, and make informed decisions. Firstly, critical media literacy fosters critical thinking. It equips us with the ability to question, analyze, and evaluate media content. Rather than accepting information at face value, we're prompted to dig deeper. Who created this content? What is their agenda? Is there a bias or a particular narrative being pushed? These are the probing questions that critical media literacy encourages us to ask. Secondly, it encourages informed decision-making. In a world where media is a primary source of information, our understanding of the world is significantly shaped by it. When we're able to critically analyze media texts, we're less likely to be swayed by false narratives or manipulated by misleading information. This means we're better equipped to make decisions that are based on facts, not falsehoods. Lastly, critical media literacy promotes responsible media consumption. It reminds us that every click, share, and like has an impact. By being critical consumers, we can prevent the spread of misinformation rather than contributing to it. We can challenge harmful narratives and support credible sources. We become not just passive consumers, but active participants in the media landscape. In this age where fake news is a rampant problem, critical media literacy is more than just a tool, it's a shield. It empowers us to navigate the complex media landscape, fostering a more informed, responsible, and critical society. With critical media literacy, we can turn the tide against misinformation and reclaim the truth. How do we equip ourselves and future generations with critical media literacy? What are the effective approaches to imparting such knowledge? To begin with, one of the most effective strategies is integrating critical media literacy into curricular courses. From primary schools to universities, it is essential to weave the understanding of media into the fabric of education. By doing this, we can ensure that students are not just passive consumers of media, but active, discerning participants. Yet, formal education is just one piece of the puzzle. In this digital age, online pedagogy plays a pivotal role. Online learning platforms can provide interactive and accessible ways to learn about critical media literacy. These platforms can offer courses, webinars, and resources that are readily available to anyone with an internet connection, breaking down geographical and socio-economic barriers to education. Moreover, critical media literacy is not a one-time lesson. It's a continuous process of learning and adaptation. As the media landscape evolves, so too must our understanding and our strategies for navigating it. For instance, with the rise of social media and user-generated content, we need to be equipped not only to analyze traditional media, but also to critically engage with these new forms of media. This requires an understanding of how algorithms work, how echo chambers are created, and how misinformation can spread like wildfire in the digital age. Additionally, we must foster a culture of critical thinking and skepticism. We need to question the sources of our information, the motivations behind media messages, and the potential biases that could be influencing our understanding. This culture of questioning and critical thinking is crucial for maintaining a healthy relationship with media in the post-truth era. Lastly, we should leverage the power of communities. Learning and growth happen not only in isolation but also through dialogue and discussion. By creating spaces for conversation about media literacy, we can learn from each other's experiences and perspectives. Equipped with critical media literacy, we can navigate the post-truth era with confidence and discernment.